Hi folks, Sam here, and the moment has arrived. Draw Steel is out. If you backed it, your PDFs should have arrived. If you want to buy it, you can grab it on the website. I'll put links and stuff down below. But I wanted to record a video to talk about why I think you should run Draw Steel. You're going to hear lots of things about why you should play it, and there's loads of cool, awesome reasons why you should. I have a bunch of reasons why I think you should create for it. There's a good license, and we can talk about that in another video. But today I just want to talk about why you should run it. And it's not even an exhaustive list of why you should run it. I could read off a list, it wouldn't be much good. But I just want to highlight why I enjoy running it, what I think it's good at, and why I hope you'll run it as well. So I've been playing Draw Steel for well over at least a year. I've run a campaign for a year, but that was through test materials, and the game's evolved a lot in that time. I am already a fan of it. I've been a fan of MCDM for years. I am also a playtest coordinator, so I'm absolutely not an unbiased voice here. But I just don't want to talk about it. So when you look into the game, you'll hear a lot about the four pillars. So tactical, heroic, cinematic, fantasy. And a lot's already been said about them, so I'm going to keep it quite short. In my experience, the game delivers on all of them. Almost a bigger revelation for me is that 5e doesn't, apart from like fantasy. So why do I think Draw Steel is so much fun to run? Or why it's so good to run? Loads of games say they're GM friendly, and a lot of them kind of say, oh, the GM's a player, or kind of player, like Strife player and Aegon. And other games hold the GM up as a sort of martyr in service to the group, the storyteller, or other various names. But it's as if they're not to have fun, they're just there to give their friends fun and entertain them, which is a part of it, but it's not the point. So Draw Steel was actually built around the core belief that the director is a player as well. So yeah, they've still got the prep to do, they're probably the one buying all the books, but when they sit down at the table, this game gives them the support to make running the game easy, and the mechanics to have fun at the table. So like 5e, Draw Steel is a combat oriented game primarily, and that's where you're going to find the bulk of its mechanics. Unlike 5e, the director is supported by a bunch of different subsystems. So for example, one of my pain points in 5e was that I'd come up against situations where the heroes wanted something from a significant NPC, and I'd be left carrying the full weight of that. Would the NPC be willing at all to negotiate with them? If so, how did I decide whether or not, or when the heroes had fully convinced them? End up being very woolly, like talk about it, call for a roll, shrug and just say like, sure. It felt arbitrarily up to me to decide the outcome of that encounter. Whereas Draw Steel has the negotiation system. So conversation with your average NPC run just the same. Let us pass or else. Make a presence roll. Yeah, you can add intimidate. Great, they get out of your way. It's very simple. We're all familiar with it. Pretty much every RPG has some version of that. But when it comes to dramatic conversations where the outcome isn't actually certain, maybe not even like binary, you can use the negotiation system. So they've got a short list of motivations which double as pitfalls, which kind of gives depth to the NPCs and reasons for why they are the way they are. There's rules for adjudicating the arguments the heroes make. And it's not about replacing RP, but like supporting it, giving a framework for it to work around. And you get that like range of outcomes. So maybe you do really poorly and the NPC openly attacks the party. Maybe you roll really, really well and they actually give you more than the players asked for. It shifts some of the weight of those social encounters off the director's back because the players are the ones who decide when to negotiate and when to walk away. So that's a kind of great feature that for me just changes the way I run. And there's other subsystems that do the same thing as well. So montages present extended challenges in a sort of cinematic way. Research and crafting brings like heroes downtime to life. So it takes the burden off you to come up with, oh, here's what it takes to make a magic sword. It just gives you that. There's loads of research projects from like the kind of simple, that player who just wants to go fishing, or the players who want to really delve into like research or crafting. It's got that. You don't have to just make it up on the fly. When it comes to skills in Draw Steel, maybe this is a pet peeve, but one of the things I struggle with in 5e, or not struggle with, is setting a DC. So, I think there's roughly advice that's like 12, 15, 17, but generally I find most of our DMs just kind of make it up. You're plucking a number out of the air, it seems right to you, but do you have 20 different gradients or 30 different gradients of how hard you want something to be? Do you think that granularly about it? I don't. Draw Steel breaks down to I think it's easy, moderate, and hard. So as a director, that's all you're saying. And the way I personally run it is, if I don't have an opinion about whether it should be easy or hard, it's medium or moderate. Straightforward. And within that, there's like 9 outcomes, or maybe it's less because some overlap, but it quantifies skill checks in such a way that you're not just making something up. You might be adjudicating and deciding how something works in a specific situation, but you're not just plucking numbers out of the air. And the best thing is the players know as well. They know if they've got a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3. It's the same brackets for all the roles they make in the game. Skills and combat. So it's 2 types of roles. You make tests for kind of skill-based stuff, and you make power rolls for like combat and kind of actions. But the biggest subsystem of them all is of course combat. And I would say with Draw Steel directors are doubly blessed. So there's robust encounter building rules, including a simplified variant for those who are less fast on exact balance. I have not used those rules. I quite like fiddling with the numbers and saying, okay, how tight can I get this? Like, can this be hard but not too hard? Can I throw like an easy encounter in without making it totally trivial? And I'm sure the simple versions have a way of doing that, simple rules, but I really want to, I like accuracy. And a lot of the time I'm making stuff for other people to run, so I feel it's, the least I can do to actually run the numbers. But the monsters themselves are designed in such a way that just doing what it says on their stat block appears tactical and cinematic to your players. Like, you don't have to, I roll, the goblin swings, move on. It's going to have a shift in there where it's going to move out the way, it's going to knock back, it's going to inflict a condition. There is a lot going on, but it's fun. I wouldn't say combat's shorter, but it doesn't feel as long. My favourite feature, I don't want to say the whole game, but at least for combat, is objectives. So how many fights have you slogged through when the outcome was basically a foregone conclusion? And whether that was because combat carried on long after the tide had turned in the hero's favour, or because if the heroes lose, it's a TPK, certain death. This is where the objective comes in. So each of the objectives in the core rules comes with advice on how to set it up, which maps to use, which creature rolls to use, and how the heroes can succeed or fail. I can't describe much that makes life easier. Like, I think the rules advise you can use counters a lot of the time, and they do have rules for if people want to run to the death, if people want to, there's like mop-up rules. I don't know the exact word, but basically everything drops to 1 stamina and you can kind of mop up the fight. But I don't even bother with that. I use objective for every fight. because it's always applicable, and some of the objectives are just kill this specific thing or reduce the numbers, diminish them. But like, I think back, last year I ran a 20th level adventure where my players fought Orcus, and I made the fight incredibly difficult because death had to be on the line. But in the end, it was just this binary outcome. Either the heroes were going to win or they were going to TPK. It's hardly a satisfying end to a 3-year campaign. But with Draw Steel, I could have set the objective of stop the action to stop Orcus even being summoned. And if that failed, I could have had hold them off to allow everyone to evacuate. And the fight could have grown in difficulty with each failed objective. Killing Orcus would still have ended it all, but if the heroes failed, it wouldn't necessarily mean final defeat. Ultimately, they could retreat, regroup, and then start afresh in the new apocalypse. They could lose the battle and still win the war. I'm waxing lyrical here, right? But have you ever sent your heroes against an enemy that just they can't beat, and you're expecting them to do some kind of retreat, like going way back, like is it Horde of the Dragon Queen opens with you fighting like a 20th level dragon or something, and you basically have to crit to scare it away, but there's, you know, your heroes don't know that, they just think they're fighting a dragon. And you sometimes throw fights like that and the heroes just don't retreat. They go, well, it's here, it wouldn't have been put here if we couldn't beat it, let's beat it. It never goes well. With objectives, I can make clear from the very start of a fight, this foe is beyond any of you. Fly, you fools. I said the archers were doubly blessed. So not only are we given these tools and support to plan and run epic encounters, they're also fun to run. The director gives their own resource called Malice, which builds up each round just as the heroes grow in power throughout the combat. You can spend it on unique abilities and effects, they sort of amp up the drama, and it makes you feel like you're part of the action. You know, some of them are very creature focused, like, you know, your creature gets to do an extra attack or something, but some of them are like, you know, the map floods and things, like some of the lizard men can do that. I believe the werewolf can like summon the moon or something. It sounds wild, and some of them are, but it's cool. They also, Malice also dovetails with that, with like I was saying about objectives, trying to avoid a slog. Sure, the director can call an end to an encounter if the outcome becomes certain, or if the heroes have achieved the goal. But see, by the time the director's run low on creatures, the boss is on its last legs, they are flush with malice. So they're at their deadliest when the end draws near. That's just cool. I could go on. I could go on and on. I have fallen in love with this game, but I think I've made my point. If it sounds like your thing, you can pick the game up now at drawsteel.com. Like I said, you can drop by Discord. There's loads of us in there, chatting about the game, chatting about giving like sort of our opinion on rules, our opinion on homebrew, loads of stuff. And I'll put that link down at the bottom. Same with Patreon, which is something I've been part of for years now, back when MCDM did Arcadia, but also through the Draw Steel process, and I'm pretty sure you can go all the way back to the start of the Patreon and view everything. So you'll be able to, if you want, see how the game was made, go back and see when it was like D6s. It's something to look at, but for those of you who've waited this long for the game to come out, it's here. So it's time to Draw Steel.